We are calling the meeting of the Charter, or specially called meeting of the Charter Revision Committee to order. Today is the 22nd of March. Councilman O'Connell, Councilor Johnson, Councilman Rosenberg, Vice Chair Mendez, and myself, Councilwoman Henderson. This is our third meeting. We met most recently in February to summarize and kind of consolidate the various proposals that we had received from council. Items that have been received kind of historically over the years, and then more recently in response to a specific call to the council for purposes of a charter revision proposal to be on the ballot in August. So working through, and I think, Hannah, just to my understanding, no worries. We also don't have the summary document.
Right, yeah, just the prioritization.
Okay. So colleagues, I guess I would ask, we're a small enough group, but if you do have that in your email to open, because I'm basically going to use that to kind of be our order of business. So it's basically looking at our priority group. These were sent to you yesterday, and just, I guess, for the community's edification or our council colleagues, subsequent to our discussion at the February 28th meeting, which was kind of organized as a work session, right? Not a really kind of formal format. We did have 4 proposals rise to the top. And so that is amending Article 19 to modify the processes and requirements for amending the charter, the establishment of the DOT, a proposed amendment from the Health Department, and MNPD personnel. So we have those still as a priority grouping. Remaining council proposals that we did have some discussion about, but we did not completely eliminate, were increasing the size of the Fair Board, NES Power Board Authority, Mayor's line item veto, and let's see, I think I am maybe looking at an older format of this.
There should be a new prioritized version that was in what was printed.
Okay, I don't have that. Colleagues, do you have that?
Yes.
Okay, I guess I just did not give that to myself when I was handing them out. So, Ms. Zeitlin, could you provide that to me? Thank you. Okay, so everybody has this?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. Alrighty. And cannabis possession, enforcement, and the renaming of Metro Water, which is not necessarily a standalone, but I think we've thought about considering that in the context of the NDOT establishment, because up to this point, we have quasi-established that through MOU moving waste collection to water. So those seem to be related. Again, just for the public's awareness, removed from consideration, GSD liquor sales would require a change in state law.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
If I could on that just really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we will know if we can get a change in state law on that in the next few weeks.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
not likely, but it's in flux.
Okay. Are you requesting that it remain in consideration, or you're just wanting this just a point of information?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, is there a state legislative proposal to address that? Okay.
There will be an amendment to propose it. I don't know if it's likely or not, but we'll know. Well, we'll know very early in the process whether it's happening or not.
Okay. All right.
Madam Chair, let the record show that the council member from Bellevue needs a drink.
All this focus on liquor. No. Okay. And then Film Commission, Music City Council Commission. those can be achieved by ordinance, so we've removed those from consideration. Ranked choice voting has been preempted at the General Assembly. Amending charter by petition, that was an alternative proposal. And then the other one was not a specific proposal. So I won't go through all the various minutia here, but as well, just for folks' information, for the kind of perennial suggestions that come up related to council size, term limits, at large, and how that is organized, we have proposed further study or working group to look at that. Okay, so this staff, right, is in our publicly accessible charter revision SharePoint for anyone who wants to review that, our council colleagues. Okay, I think I'm just going to kind of start off as far as how we're going to kind of organize the meeting. Well, last time we had kind of an informal work session or discussion. I had hoped at this meeting to move to a kind of more formalized voting process, like this is in, this is out. That said, colleagues, we got the DOT proposal at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And, you know, respectfully, that is after having an initial meeting in October, meeting in this committee in late February, being very clear that we needed to see that in advance of this next committee meeting, which was originally scheduled for March 14th, that was then moved to March 22nd. So I'm going to see if we can kind of straddle both types of discussion, because I'm not, I mean, I think we can talk about advancing, you know, the DOT, but I don't feel comfortable making an official vote if this committee hasn't been able to review it. Yes, Councilman O'Connell.
Madam Chair, to that end, I think we could probably pursue the rest of the agenda and not have a committee recommendation on that item. I will say I have several questions about it and I don't feel comfortable voting on it yet.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, I appreciate that Director Alarcon is here, and so I would hope that we could use this committee time to pose some of those questions, Councilman O'Connell. I think just from a kind of order of operations, I think, hello.
Whoa, you made a liar out of me.
I did make a liar out of you.
All
That's because
right.
we didn't actually talk.
I carved out a lot of real estate for myself here, Councilman Roden, so I'm going to suggest you go here. That is no longer a complete packet, so Ms. Zeitlin is going to give you kind of a complete packet of
Ran both
info.
ways. You got stopped by a lot of trash on the street. I'm not kidding.
Okay, let's, colleagues, first take up amending Article 19.
Can I mention one other thing before we
Yes.
start? By my count, all the things that are for us to talk about, total 11 amendments and 19 pages of text on 8.5 by 11. And so I don't know how many screens that is in the election booth, but like at 11 amendments and 19 pages of text, like I don't know who's going to get voted off the island, but there's going to be some stuff that's going to have to be voted off the island.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've talked about last time, there is only so much kind of bandwidth and space to convey to the public kind of the importance of these items. So we I think need to look at this kind of in order of priority as we've discussed, and yeah, and so I think Chair Mendez, do you want to speak to
Sure.
your amendment? And again, it's one we discussed last time, so if you want to give us any updates as
Sure.
far as the status, and then I think that one, because we have had before us at previous committee, we've had a fair amount of discussion. I think we could move to a vote, or I would propose that we move to a vote on that one subsequent to our discussion. Go ahead.
Sure. So last time we were here, there was a bill pending at the state that would have addressed petition-led referendum items in Nashville differently than the document we have before us, and I mentioned that they couldn't both survive. They couldn't work well together, so what happened at the state would matter. Since then, by largely partisan lines, the state legislature killed the state version, so there is no state version right now. So the conflict I talked about between what this is and what state law was the legislature was thinking about isn't a conflict anymore. So this would be a rewrite of Article 19 about amending the charter. You all know that the burn rate for legal fees over petitions in Nashville is over $1 million a year, and I think this current 12 months is probably going to be maybe 20-30% higher than that. It's a big burn rate. There are certain things that keep getting litigated over and over again because, frankly, the charter isn't terribly clear as written now. One of the things that gets litigated all the time is what's the right number of signatures to have, because it floats from election to election what the right number of signatures to get on a ballot is. And one of the key things this would do would be to standardize the number of signatures, so it wouldn't be a debate. Depending on what the turnout was at the last election, it would standardize it at one place, which is 15% of all registered voters. That's the same threshold that the other 94 counties in the state of Tennessee have. The other major thing that this would do is we're the only county in the state where signatures are collected and then we litigate. And we've all heard that people who signed the petitions and then feel very aggrieved that they collected signatures, worked on collecting signatures, signed a petition, and then the courts are robbing them of the right to the vote. And so the other 94 counties have a process where the form of the petition is approved in advance before signatures are gathered, and that gives people a chance. You still might litigate it, but you're litigating before the signatures, not after the signatures. And so this would move, like the other counties, it would move us to a position where the form of the petition is approved before signatures are gathered. And then the last major thing this does is creates a mechanism where the existing Charter Revision Commission is the body that would review the form of the petition before it goes out for signature. And so those are the major things. For me personally, like as a lawyer who has sat in on election commission meetings and read the briefs, and
God bless you, Mom.
and collectively the citizens of Davidson County are burning $1 million a year to litigate the same stuff over and over again. And this is should reduce litigation to a narrower set of issues, and it should make the litigation, the bulk of it, happen before signatures are gathered, which both should be improvements, and that's what this does.
Colleagues, questions? Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilmember Mendez, I guess as I consider this, my understanding was one of the things that the state law was seeking to address was a Nashville-specific carve-out about this. Obviously, this is bringing us more into line with 94 other counties. Does that also resolve that just kind of generalized carve-out?
No, and part of the reason why I preferred that the state law didn't pass is I just don't think that in this era, Metro should be in the business of asking the state legislature to give us less power. And right now, there is a carve-out under state law where Metro gets to make the rules for how things work. I preferred to keep the freedom to make our own rules and then make rules. And this is not fully in line with state law. particularly the part, just being totally upfront about it, the part about having the Charter Revision Commission do the reviewing at the front end, that's different than state law. But that threshold of, well, first of all, the idea of having litigation
But to
before
be
the.
clear, not consistent with state law, but within our carve-out.
But within our authority. Thank you. But the idea of having a form approved before you get signatures, like, we should adopt that. And I think, just because, I mean, we've seen the fallout of, a countywide signature campaign, and then the fight afterwards is dissatisfying to everybody.
Especially the community, makes folks feel
Sure.
confused, disenfranchised, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Councilman Rosenberg, you're back.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this, Councilman Mendez. This makes a lot of sense. One question, and it might not be something that you touched at all. Under amendment by council resolution at the end of the first paragraph, the proposed amendment cannot be identical or substantially similar to proposed amendment rejected in the previous 2 calendar years.
Where is that?
So at the end of the first paragraph. under
19.02A,
Page one.
Oh,
the end of 19.02A.
oh, I see, sorry.
But for amendment by petition, the end of the first paragraph is no amendment shall be submitted to the voters by petition more often than once in each 2 years, which to me seems like if you change one word, you can keep submitting it to the voters, which might be okay. Was that the language that was there before?
Yeah, the language that you, and just to point out for everybody, you're looking at comparing it to 1903A, this last sentence there. So it's the last sentence of A in 02 and 03. And in 19.03A, about amendment by petition, that is the language from the current charter. It is, and it was already set up where the public can only do one every 2 years, no matter what.
No individual, no specific amendment can be done more than once in 2 years.
I think the way that's been interpreted previously, Ms. Darby can tell us, is if anything gets on the ballot due to petition, actually goes to the ballot, that you can't have any other petition-led item for 2 years.
I don't know the answer, but I can find that.
So,
All right, well,
anyway.
I actually, at some point, I was going to make a disclaimer that there's parts of this that I still want to take a look at fine-tuning, and the thing that you mentioned is actually the thing that I'm still looking at.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so, Ms. Darby, and then I would just ask everybody in attendance, if you are going to speak, please identify yourself so that the public can know who is speaking. You're going to pursue that further, but then Councilman Mendez articulated at the same time that as far as the fine tuning, that's a piece that you want to address as well. And so
yeah.
what I do want to share, colleagues, is I think at this juncture, when we put this to a vote, this is saying just kind of, conceptually as conceived with this, the intent here is something that we as a committee support. But as you've seen from our draft timeline, we are going to have additional kind of workshop time to fine tune the language in concert with staff, in the committee. So the feedback that you have, Councilman Rosenberg, we will figure out kind of an appropriate forum, whether through staff or otherwise, or in committee, to do some of this fine tuning. So what we would be doing today, and what we're kind of discussing is, is this committee saying that as conceived, this is something that we want to put on the ballot?
Right, Madam Chair, I interpret that as basically, we are effectively endorsing the summary item as worthy of consideration by our peers, but we will continue to refine the language that everyone will consider for a final floor vote that would then be offered to voters.
Correct, thank you, yes. Does anyone else have questions for Councilman Mendez on this proposal?
Well, I guess, because I know we're going to get into the workshop thing, but I just had a couple of questions. So the Charter Revision Commission,
I like the idea of having things vetted out before we go through months or 30 days of collecting signatures and all that.
This,
We've had,
just this expands it to 75 days, so there's more time.
okay. But my concern is who is going to be on this board, because we've had lawyer after lawyer and judges and all that trying to figure it all out, and I don't know that anybody still has figured it out of what's valid, what's not, what's whatever. So is there any sort of, or should it be considered that the people that are on this Charter Revision Commission be lawyers, judges, or have that type of experience versus, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
it's
and-
that's pretty significant law
Well,
language.
That's actually why that's the group that's been chosen. Currently, there's 2 former Metro legal directors on the commission, and Dewey Brandstetter is the chair, largely in part because his dad helped write the charter, and he talked to his dad, 1,000 hours worth about how to interpret the charter, and so right now there is a lot of I think if you're going to take the top 7-10 people in the county as far as knowledge about the charter, maybe 2 or 3 of them reside on the Charter Revision Commission, and I believe, I'm confident that for the 50-year history of Metro, the Charter Revision Commission has been pretty stacked with careful thinkers about the charter, and I sincerely hope that that 50-year history continues on. But right now, I think some of the leading thinkers in the county on the charter are on the commission, especially. Well, I guess I won't denigrate the others by naming a name.
Councilor Johnson, is what you are, I hear what you're asking, but are you thinking as long as we're engaged in this space, because other boards and commissions, we're going to get to a discussion on health, specifies people of this particular professional acumen? I hear what Councilman Mendez is saying, we're good, people know that this is important and we get good legal minds on there. Are you kind of suggesting
I would
perhaps
prefer to have that
some
articulated,
precise
that is
language?
something that, if we're good, that's fine, but who knows 15, 20 years from now if that would be the same, and I would just like for it to be articulated, not only so that everyone understands what types of skill sets are on this commission, but that's exactly what's expected, and so that the public can read that and say, okay, these aren't just the mayor's friends that have been appointed.
If I may, Chair.
Yes.
And just because someone's been sitting on this commission for the last 40 years does not mean they're good. I've been to a few and I'm like, what are they talking about? They don't have a clue what they're talking about. So I'm just gonna,
Right, but we're in a spot right now and have been for a number of years where this particular commission is high functioning as one that we have. I guess the thing I'm wrestling with is I don't.
time.
No. It's just. Just to be perfectly blunt about it. Not all lawyers are created equal on this.
Very true.
So let me think about that.
Okay. Yeah, I
hear you.
Take that under advisement.
Yeah, because the people that are on there now aren't going to live forever, and we're going to have different mayors, and I don't want it to become a political thing. So if there's buzz about a petition that could be coming down the pike and a mayor is against it and said, oh, I'm going to stack the deck against that particular thing, if you have a standard set of qualifications, it won't necessarily completely take that out of there, but it at least will. You've got a set of standards that are there.
Is there a skill set you have in mind other than lawyer?
No, I'm not necessarily. But somebody that understands and knows and has experience and education and knowledge in this, because it's a pretty specific thing. There's all kinds of lawyers. You don't want Bart Durham doing this.
And I'm just gonna.
No offense to Bart Durham, I'm just saying that's a different type
If
of
somebody's
law.
watching this, I'll just throw it out there because I was the one who was at the end of this. I was in front of them several years ago on the Charter Commission, and someone who was supposed to be the most knowledgeable on the commission actually said to me, well, how will these people be represented since there's so much more of them in the downtown area, speaking of a minority group, when it was 2-to-1 that they are now out in the county. And the person said it, he's supposed to be the most knowledgeable on the charter. He didn't have a clue of where the minorities lived in this county. And so that tells me that he's not keeping up with demographics in the county. You know, that's the kind of stuff that I'm concerned about. He's more worried about a downtown law firm than the actual city.
Which law firm?
I'm trying to not say anything.
I have one more,
And if
point.
I could, just to bridge that a little bit, getting to what you are saying, right? Like you understand there's a charter thing coming, and are we kind of, stacking the board or so forth? Do terms get at that? If the term is longer, I mean, Councilman Mendez is speaking to, we've got Mr. Renstetter for multiple decades, et cetera. And so we appreciate that institutional memory. But could that be a way to kind of get at, rather than specifically saying, lawyer with this skill set, right, and kind of getting into the weeds in the context of the charter, would a longer term
Well,
I think
across the district?
staggering the terms.
Staggering the terms potentially kind of
yeah,
address that?
it doesn't say that there's a term limit. They just are 4-year terms and they can be reappointed. I mean, I think there's something super valuable to having someone, this consistency there. So if someone wants to serve on it for 12 or 16 or 20 years, thanks a lot. Like, we appreciate that. But also the ability to roll off every, if something happens, if they move, I mean, life happens. So I think that I don't have a problem with how that's set up at all. I don't. Are we ready to move on? I just have one more question.
Yeah, last question, sure.
So 15% of registered voters, and I think that's in line with the rest of the state. So I like the idea that I think it's necessary to have a defined goalpost. And right now, we don't necessarily have a defined goalpost because obviously we're litigating it constantly of what election are we gauging the number of voters and all this kind of stuff. So I want to define the goalpost so that we know what we're talking about, we know what the expectation is. What I am a little bit hesitant about is increasing that, because the number of registered voters is obviously a lot higher than actual voter turnout. And I'm not saying, I don't have any ideas of what it should be, but we are a large county. So I don't know how many registered voters we have here, but Davidson County has a population of over 700,000, whereas somewhere like DeKalb County clearly does not. So 15% of their registered voters is a much smaller number than 15% of our registered voters. So not only are we defining the goalpost, but we're also pushing that goalpost way out. And what I don't want is for it to be such an increase in that difference, or what people perceive that difference to be, that this doesn't pass. Because I think it's necessary. I want it to pass. I just don't want it to be, they're just making this impossible for us. So is that something that we should look at? And I don't care what the rest of the state does, because we are different in that way because we are so large. So, I want this to pass. So I want the fewest obstacles and the fewest, because that's why it failed in the state, in my opinion, because we had a large group of people that came out and said they're just taking away our ability to do this. And I know, but that's sort of what happened, and it came out of nowhere from the sponsors of that legislation. They had no idea that it was going to be that.
So the nod to that issue is more than doubling the time frame to get the signatures. 75 days is a lot longer than 30 days.
Okay.
And political tides will turn, and one day
it cuts both ways, for sure.
One day, the way it is now is the way it's been for 50 years, and is this, what's going to happen at the state over another 50 years? I don't know. And so I think it's hard to crystal ball gaze and figure out what's right or wrong. In drafting it, the trade-off of setting a firm standard goalpost is a good word for it, is like dramatically increasing the amount of time. And like I personally obviously I like it where it is, but if I was gonna suggest a change to one of them, make 75 become 90 days, and give people more time to do it. And like anybody wants to change the charter, it's got to talk to 27 council members, and they can get a thing on the ballot. So fundamentally, there's no conceivable way that democracy is being crushed here, because the Metro Council, y'all are directly elected by 20,000 people, and if there really is a groundswell in the community to make some change, it takes 27 of us to put it on the ballot, and it shouldn't. I think part of the weakness is that under Route 1, you need 2/3 of the council-driven one, you need 2/3 of the council, which is designed to be challenging, and the other route has turned out to be objectively too easy. And so I am happy to talk about this dynamic. I'm sure other folks are going to want to talk about it too, but I would just encourage people to look at the number of days to collect the signatures.
And Courtney, can I just add one thing to your point real quick?
Sure.
I think Bob's and I agree with Bob kind of, whereas I think you get something on Facebook or you get something on Twitter and it's like immediate, reactionary, and you can get those number of signatures just like that. But I think to change the charter, you need something that after it dies down, everybody has a chance to look at it. You have a little bit longer, you don't want to change the charter just based on, the public's perception over a week or two. You know what I mean? You want something that takes a few months and a lot more people agree, yes, this needs to be changed.
I was going to suggest a Twitter poll.
I agree with you. My concern is I just want, people's perception is their reality. And this is going to be the biggest point of contention for a lot of people, in that we are moving that goalpost. So I think it may be helpful to say, how many registered voters do we have in Davidson County? Do we know?
Say 300,000 for the sake of argument.
So 300,000. Okay. And then so what's our typical average? Of course, it's kind of hard because the elections are so hard to look, but just to articulate what does that number look like? Because we know what 15% of 300,000 is.
Mayor, if you're looking for actual turnout, the mayoral elections, 125,000, and for this summer with the judges, like in May, 40,000.
Which wouldn't count for a charter petition because it's a primary.
So what's the August one going to be?
Probably less.
At most, if there's competitive
no more than 100
legislative races and congressional primaries, not a lot.
And so, that's the broad scale of it.
So roughly on our mayoral turnouts, it's roughly a third, give or take, of the number of voters. So that's a pretty large differential in registered versus turnout. So we're moving that goalpost, and I'm not saying that's a wrong thing. I'm just saying from the perspective of what would get this thing defeated is going to be, they're making this impossible. So just want us to keep that in mind.
If we keep talking about it that way, yeah. But we're doubling 2.5 times the time. So that's not nothing.
I get it. I just want us to keep that in mind. I'm not saying we need to change it in any way. If the goal is to make this change, which I think is needed on a lot of different levels, for most all of them you've articulated, I want to make sure that we're aware of what that public perception is going to be.
Let me ask you some unscientific gut instinct. Like what's the number that makes it feel better from that perspective?
I don't know, maybe 10%. 10% of registered voters.
I'm happy to keep having the discussion about whether 75 should be stretched and whether, who knows, maybe 12.5. I don't know. I'm happy to have the conversation further about it.
The point I guess I would make as well is just from a fairness standpoint. Yes, we do have a larger population, but it's representative. People can. I just think the continuity argument or the fairness argument of all 95 counties in Tennessee have the same. That's legitimate. I grant you that there are 15% of, 300K is more than whatever.
By the way, I'm dead wrong about that, it's 480,000.
Okay, but it's, 480K, thank
It
you.
used to be 3 for a long, it seemed like it was 300.
It was just like 35 years ago.
But there's a good clarity and fairness argument that it's the same for everyone.
There is,
Yeah.
but I feel like from this perspective, from the voters' perspective in Davidson County, I don't think that they really care about what the rest of it. We are changing their goalpost. They don't care about Williamson County, they don't care about DeKalb County, Shelby County, whatever. This is the goalpost that they've always had or have had for however many years, and we're changing it significantly. So comparing it, I think is an invalid thought process. I could argue it that way, but they're not gonna think of it that way. They're gonna think, okay, they've just moved this way, way out, and apparently way, way out with 480,000 people registered to vote. 15% of that is quite a lot. I don't know how many signatures the petition got. How many did they get? Do you remember?
It changes every freaking.
Well, okay, so what was the highest number they said they got?
I mean, they claimed at some point.
272,000.
They claimed 30-some thousand, I think, at some point. Well, you guys know how good I am with numbers.
So,
May I suggest that, I think,
yeah, we can move on, but I think it's an important thought.
introduce it like this, but like, this isn't the last time we're gonna have
Right.
that conversation. And so, I think both the 75 days and the 15% are something we can talk about more.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so does someone want to make a motion with the proposal?
So moved to
I think-
keep this
I think
on.
Councilman O'Connell articulated it well, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of conceptually as drafted,
Send it to the commission or whatever.
Yeah.
yes.
Let him send this back, whatever. their thoughts
And so
are.
we're saying, as a committee, that this is something that we are,
I move that we recommend this one.
okay.
Seconded.
Okay.
And just one quick discussion, and so what ends up in the resolution for first reading will have maybe a little tweak on the language that Councilman Rosenberg was asking about in
Correct.
19.02 and 3, but that won't really change the substance. I think it's for clarity at that point.
And then I would also suggest, do we have a strong feeling about 90 days?
I think we should just leave it the way it is for now and have, I think we should decide
That
the,
conversation later.
I think we should decide the percentage and the days together.
Madam Chair, how many times do you, I can look at myself, I guess, but off the top of your head, how many more times would you like to discuss this after it comes back?
So I think, Ms. Darby, per our timeline right now, again, draft timeline, the assumption was that we would be filing our resolution on March 29th. That said, having just received DOT, having seen the amount of discussion, right, that we just had on this one, it's now 4:50. I think we're gonna have to kind of figure out what that looks like with Ms. Darby, because I think we should have it in draft form back to the committee before filing, so.
We can always add that amendment after we defer.
Right,
first time.
absolutely. So as established here, Councilman Roten, that's our, subsequent.
I was looking and I was just trying to.
Yeah, subsequent kind of, work sessions to fine tune a language like 75 versus 90, or, invariably, this is going to come up in the context of our body, right?
Right,
as
and I
we
guess that was
debate
my
the
issue
merits.
was, so we
Right.
changed it to 75 to 90, does it have to go back to the Charter Commission?
No.
Or,
I-
I guess that's my issue, how much of a change?
The
I guess
commission
legal can
actually
tell?
doesn't have to look at it until after we pass it. Like, they just give their opinion at some point.
Okay, I was just making sure if we
And-
made any substantive changes, we didn't have to send it back over for them to look at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ms. Darby,
we-
could
They're
you?
usually they're gonna take it up, it's my understanding, their plan is to take it up after we file it. And then, of course, I think we defer it and then we hear their recommendations, make any sort of a changes that may be warranted, and then move forward with
It
approval.
might be similar, just, it's not totally analogous, but, you know, at planning commission, right? And then you kind of have a staff report, and sometimes staff recommends a substitute, you know, not that, or they might just give us feedback, that we could then take into committee and inform the amendments. I mean, I would like us, to the extent that it's possible, that, you know, what we file, it represents, you know, the will and the discussion of this committee. I'm going to defer to the proposer, you know, the person who's done the majority work, as to the final language, as long as that's within the spirit of the discussion of the committee. So, you know, I would like us, though, to, you know, cross as many Ts and dot as many Is as we can pre-filing, because I think what we've seen, if we don't have our ducks in a row, if we cannot respond to colleagues with the precise number of registered voters, et cetera, what that then does to the discussion on the floor and kind of getting sideways on some things. So I think it's important that we're asking these questions here and articulating this, but I think from a committee standpoint, prior to filing, you know, that's going to come back in draft form from Ms. Darby, and so I would suggest that the committee looks at it again, and, you know, we're not doing anything necessarily substantive like 10, 15 at that juncture, but that we can do that later. But any fine-tuned housekeeping we could do between now and the filing.
And right now, we have the filing on March 29, which is next Tuesday. We could move that conceivably to 4/12 for filing.
Can we do that just to be safe?
And you still
No?
have.
Okay, don't.
It gets to the floor and, yeah.
No
I
matter
think
how much we talk about it in here,
That's right.
we're gonna have
I'm
to
just
talk
hearing about it for the
all-
first time.
all
We
year.
need to see it again.
Okay.
We still have
It's gonna be a
several
long
meetings to go before our final meeting where it has to pass in order to go on the budget. So if we were to file on 4/12, you've got that April 18 meeting, April 19 meeting, and then May 5th meeting and May 17 meeting.
There's no May 17th meeting? May 17th is a Sunday.
Is that a Sunday? Then the date is incorrect on there. Sorry.
Or May 5th is wrong. May
May
3rd is Tuesday.
It's election day,
It's
so it's May
election day.
5th.
Oh.
You should know this.
Get those wheels turning with all those alternative
right.
things.
Okay,
Yeah,
never
so that-
mind. Okay, so May, okay, so we
May
would still have
17th.
3 chances.
Yes.
What's the danger of going ahead and filing it for the,
Well, the biggest thing is that the chair, for good reasons, would like the committee to be more or less on board, and for the health department and NDOT, we're not gonna be on board by the end of today, because we didn't get it till a couple hours ago.
but why not file it without those couple amendments? We refer it to the committee on the 5th. And then we can then add those amendments for the next meeting when it's back in committee, just to add an extra deferral on the floor.
I was gonna suggest the idea of getting this committee to meet on the 4th or the 5th.
We
Because,
would automatically with it.
Right.
not on first read.
It's a resolution.
No, I'm so dumb.
No, it's fair. I mean, yeah. Right, so we will meet as a committee, because it is, though it seems so, right? All this process, you think of it in your head as an ordinance, but it is a resolution. So, yeah, and I mean, I guess we could move it to the 4th with budget and finance and planning and so forth, just to give us a little extra time.
I mean, just to get us off a process and moving forward.
Yes.
From my perspective, like, you're the lead sponsor of the resolution that's coming, and if you get happy with the health department one and the NDOT one between now and a week from today, and you unilaterally decide to stick it in the resolution you're the lead sponsor of, more power to you. Like, yay, you.
Pressure on you.
If you decide to not, because you're not comfortable with it, then leave them out and do like Dave said, and file it and then add them in at the next meeting.
And Madam Chair, I'm not, it's your committee, it's gonna be your bill, you can do what you want. But you're well aware that if we start putting 50 to 100 pages in this thing. You know what that means for the whole thing, pretty much.
Yes, sir, I do. Yes, absolutely.
I'm-
Yep.
Well, that was
I'm
the
just
point where we started with, like, kind
Oh,
of-
I'm sorry, Al. I'm sorry. I came in late, but,
Right.
see, Dave, look at that.
Right, and I think, that's a point we've made in previous committee, Councilman Roten, you were not here last time, that, what we said,
work, man. I got
what we had
kids.
said to the administration is, it's not that this council doesn't want to support the effectuation of NDOT, or respond to the health department's concerns and those needed changes, but or, we can look at all these individually on their standalone merit, but we have to think of them in the aggregate as a proposal to the voting public. So, we're trying to kind of strike the balance between, as our discussion just now, the merit of, advancing amend Article 19, I think, which we've all acknowledged is kind of our biggest priority from an existential faith in government, cost, clarity standpoint. So I think, let's take the vote on 19, because I think based on the commission or the committee discussion and what I've heard is no matter what we do on other ones, that one is our first priority. And then as we get a little further down the list, I think then what gets kind of filed as is or otherwise depends on the entirety of it. Okay, so Councilman O'Connell, you had a motion that was to include this proposal with some potential housekeeping tweaks and then I think, Ms. Darby, that's got us a little sidelined on our timeline question, but in our resolution is filed, and date TBD as we conclude this meeting, but potentially March 29th or Ms. Darby 4/12, and we'll decide as a committee what we're doing before we depart today. So, do you want to re-articulate that motion?
Reviewed
or
as
is that-
stated.
Okay. All right, and second already, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let the record show that all 6 are voting in favor. We have Director Alarcon here, and appreciate her being here with us. Director Alarcon, I think at this juncture, it's almost like you're gonna have to kind of do a primer or a presentation for us here. Think of it as kind of an elevator speech, right? Like, I mean, what are, again, I received it too. I was on a call. I read through this once really fast. And so, as I articulated at the top of the meeting, I have a little concern about kind of voting something forward. Amendment 19 that we just voted on, we had an extensive discussion at previous committee, right? And then we discussed it here again for almost an hour and we voted. So, I guess, colleagues, I'm just gonna give Director Alarcon kind of the floor, to explain, the amendment.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'll be really brief. The biggest change in this is actually changing out public works to transportation and multimodal infrastructure, and to also better define exactly what our roles and responsibility would be. So most of the changes that you will see is actually eliminating public works and putting in the new name of the department, and then better defining what our roles and responsibility would be as far as maintaining of the public right of way. And that's including up to the construction, cleaning, maintaining, repairs, management, streets, alley, highways. So we just better define that. And so we really did keep this brief. This round, we actually had the whole thing rewritten, and for the sake of it being too long to go for the voters and they would lose interest, the biggest change to this has just been the name change and better definition of the roles and responsibility of the department. So thank you.
Okay, so you would assert that it's primarily language
Yes, ma'am.
changing?
Yes, removing the public works and putting in the new department name of transportation multimodal infrastructure. And then under section 8.402 for the function. It's just a little bit more clarification of the roles and responsibility of the department.
Okay, I'm just going to kind of read into the record on your proposal here on the final page as drafted. It said this amendment would replace Department of Public Works, in quotation marks, wherever it appears throughout the chapter with Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure. That's a mouthful. I appreciate multimodal. I'm all about it. I think some of us feel like, we're supportive of NDOT, but it got stood up pretty fast and whoop, you slapped the logo up there, you changed the name. And so have you had any further conversations about the name of the department in the context of this deliberation?
I have not.
Okay. Delete from the list of NDOT. Okay, so NDOT is our acronym for Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure. And so we recognize that NDOT is not actually an acronym for the department, right?
Correct.
Okay. Because it's Nashville DOT is the acronym, but the department is DOTMI, et cetera. Okay. Delete from the list of NDOT's responsibilities the collection and disposal of garbage and refuse and the operation of facilities relating thereto. Third, limit the capital projects that NDOT is responsible for constructing to those relating to transportation or located within the rights of way, and provides that where NDOT does not construct such projects itself, it shall supervise the contracts for the same. Fourth, limit NDOT's responsibility for the administration and enforcement of all laws, ordinances, and regulations pertaining to permits and licenses to those relating to building and construction within the public rights of way, taxi cabs and other vehicles for hire, parking and public gatherings within the public rights of way. And then fifth, provide that NDOT shall be responsible for the design, deployment, operations, and maintenance of traffic control devices on local roads and conventional state routes in Davidson County, except for those owned by incorporated cities such as Berry Hill and Goodlettsville, including regulatory and warning signs on conventional state routes to the extent the latter are not handled by the state DOT. Is that the language that you would propose for the ballot for the public's consideration?
Yes, ma'am.
Colleagues, any questions for Director Alarcon? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman O'Connell, I apologize. You're recognized.
Yeah, I have several. If we're going to the voters for an update on the charter, why would we stipulate that there is compensation at a level of $15,000 for the head of the department?
Yeah, I thought that was odd.
So that's actually already in the charter. So
Yeah.
we were just to keep it simple, because again, if it gets too much, then the voters lose interest. So we just limited to what we felt was most relevant, which was the department standing up and along what our roles and responsibility would be. But that's actually in the charter, and yes, we too do feel like it needs to be completely removed.
Can I just comment on that real quick? First of all, have you guys had a chance to review this substantively yet? I think the way the charter is written in 1960 whatever is it sets salaries at a certain rate and then in a separate provision allowed the authority to raise it. So if I were you, I'd really, really, really want Metro Legal to tell me that you're not getting a pay decrease to
Yeah,
$15,000.
I did check.
Because, well, I
I
mean,
did check.
that's how I read it. So-
I did too, and I actually, it really isn't relevant to today's times. So we actually had it originally marked up, but for the sake of, as it was shared with me through legal, if we go through everything and include it, we would lose the attention of the voters. So we kept it specific to what we needed done now, and then we would at a later date come back and continue to clean up the charter.
And so can I ask, so did Ms. Costonis draft this? Jerry
Yes.
Costonis. Okay, so Ms. Costonis is not present today. Mr. Jameson from the Mayor's Administration is not present today. I very much appreciate you being present today. Staff has not yet reviewed this. I don't even know if all of you colleagues got your 2:00 email and were able to read this. So,
No, I mean, this is my first, I mean, my first blush would be, I would strike and compensation and just strike that part of the clause and be done with it. That's not gonna confuse voters. This is, to your point, it's brief, and I think it's actually more confusing to put in front of voters language that sets an anachronistic salary.
right, agreed. Yes, Chair, or Vice Chair.
My only point is, for all of these, in order to have an opinion, I open the charter in one browser and the amendment in another, and I haven't had a chance to do that, so I don't have any opinion about this today.
So to that end, I mean, there are a couple of questions I have just to know whether or not this is even, to me, worth presenting conceptually. I mean, my personal take is probably gonna be like Councilmember Mendez, where I'm not sure we're ready to make a recommendation as a committee on this one in particular. I do want to go ahead and get some stuff out there to make sure that if this takes a more final form, or we get through that analysis and we feel more comfortable with it, that we understand this. The summary we've been working off of says that we'd formally establish NDOT, but it also has the second part of assignment of solid waste responsibilities to MWS, which this does not do. It does eliminate solid waste as a function of what was the Department of Public Works, but it doesn't do the assignment piece.
Right, I was surprised not seeing that myself.
I don't
Yeah.
know what that means in terms of what the charter then would say if we remove this. It may leave no comment. I think I'd just like to understand what the implications are for removing this, because I know there has been previously some discussion of, yes, we are either going to create a standalone solid waste utility or something like that, or we're gonna, I mean, I know we have this renamed Metro Water, but I'm not sure that actually gets there. My understanding previously had been that the administration was gonna recommend that assignment. If that's not where we are, then are we left with NDOT as chartered, having an ongoing MOU with Metro Water? Does that pass muster? Because I know there was some question about that when council first set this up. So I do think there needs to be some version of that. The amendment says that, suggesting as a new limitation, and again, like Councilmember Mendez, I haven't done the comparative analysis of this, but this seems to so if I read the phrase, limit NDOT's responsibility for the administration and enforcement of all laws, ordinances, and regulations, right, to a more specific set, I will say, for me personally, one of the chief complaints that I get from constituents right now is the fact that our enforcement capacity is far too constrained as it is. If we're relying on Metro Police to enforce quality of life issues, and we get told over and over and over again that codes goes home at 4:30 every day, I know people have appreciated having some enforcement capacity at NDOT, and I would wonder what we're limiting it down from. So I want to get some comparative analysis on that, because what I am hearing over and over and over again from constituents is a preference for more enforcement capacity within Metro, not less. So I think that's the solid waste piece and that, and on just a quick read, the compensation piece are immediate concerns of mine.
I think you heard as well, points are well made, Councilman O'Connell, in the council's debate, Director Alarcon, around effectuating NDOT through, somewhat backwards MOU of moving waste services. And then from a budgetary perspective, in kind of standing up NDOT, if you were to watch kind of the debate or the hearing about those 42 new positions, right? Like, I think what the public's hope was, and the council's hope in this space was, to Councilman O'Connell's point, not to be kind of limiting our capacity, like how we're sort of framing what the authority is, and how we can effectuate, just making sure that our, we have struggled with that. Councilman Mendez has pointed out, our 5G installs cut through the pavement with foam fill of the whatever, the inspection piece has been challenging, and so, this council said, 42 new positions stand this up, and I know we've gone through a lot of challenges of late, but I don't know if the way that this is being kind of framed or presented to the public is frankly as positive as it could be, or, limit this, limit that, replace these words. It's really just word replacement, and then the waste piece not being addressed. And those are just kind of general conceptual statements on my part, again, not getting into the weeds. Yes?
Yep. My version of that is that, so I think objectively it's true that the administration doesn't know where all the pieces are going in the future. Like we've heard that directly, that don't know where the garbage is pickup's gonna end up. That's why it's got taken out of here, because we don't know where it's going. And so I think objectively it's true that the administration doesn't know where all the pieces fit going forward, but feels compelled to pass something because, we've arguably been violating the charter. Maybe not. The MOU is a kick save for us. My personal view, if that's what's going on, is that we really don't know what the future holds for garbage pickup, and so we really, this is a half measure. If that's what's going on, then I would say, well, let's have the courage of our convictions that the MOU is a legal process, and hold off until we actually know where all the pieces are going to land and change this stuff once. And I'm not wed to anything, because this is 2 hours, now 3 hours old. But if that's what's going on, the administration doesn't know what the future holds, hasn't figured it all out yet, ran out of time, so it is in fact 3/4 baked. Y'all, the administration said the MOU is good enough. Let's get a more complete answer. Subject to hearing details about all this stuff.
I think what I tried to articulate to the administration in October of last year was, if you watched the debate about the MOU and effectuating that, and the analysis that we had from the council office at the time, I don't want the DOT, which I think the whole council believes has merit, right? Transportation, multimodal infrastructure, we're all about it. What I tried to articulate back in October is I don't want to kind of re-litigate, right, the debate around, is trash over here? Is it in water? Are we going to stand it up as its own waste services division, which I think people think potentially has merit. But if those kind of existential where the pieces go questions aren't answered, this is going to get DOT sidetracked, right? It's going to remain somewhat mired in that indecision. And so, to Councilman Mendez's point, it's not that I'm speaking for myself and what I hear from other colleagues, it's not that we're not conceptually supportive of the DOT and the success of your department and your team. We just want to, get it right, and get it right one time, and not take half measures. Colleagues, what do you think in the intervening time would be a good motion to get some additional analysis from staff, and put a kind of a tighter timeline on that? I mean, I'm hesitant to just kind of dismiss this outright at this juncture. I'm trying to weigh that against, this is something that the administration has known for months and months and months that they were going to need to do, and we got it at 2:00 before this meeting. So,
I don't want to dismiss it. I mean, we've got a couple of good charterologists who work in the council office and do stuff for us, and so I'm assuming they're going to want to express some views about this to us. I'm sure we want them to express some views about it, and I think there needs to be time for those of us who are gonna look at it, side by side, to do that. I stand by, like, this was the day to have a conversation, and we were supposed to be prepared. We weren't, because we didn't get the stuff till 2. Like, from my perspective, if you get to next Tuesday as chair, as lead sponsor, and you want to stick it in the package, in the resolution, whatever the version is at the time, I trust your judgment. And if you decide it's not ready for prime time, then leave it out. And so we can talk about it at the committee meeting we'll have on April 4 or 5. That's my suggestion.
Okay. I would say then, can someone on the committee try to articulate that as a motion?
So what's the motion, just to let you decide?
I move we trust the chair.
I think we.
I don't like that at all, to be honest with you.
I don't know that we.
No offense.
No,
I'm just saying
none
that we're a
taken.
committee for a reason.
Right.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I think if
It's
we're
going to
going
come
to
back
make
to
a
us for a
motion,
vote eventually.
I know, but
we do support the idea of some amendment to make us as a city be in general compliance of the charter, given how the mayor's office changed stuff a year ago. We are generally supportive of that. Like, exact language, I don't think any of us know right now. We could ask Ms. Darby whether she feels like we need a motion one way or the other on this.
I would like the committee to vote on, obviously, any of these things are up for, and we're engaged in analysis. But I would like for us to articulate
okay.
specifically what it is that we want from staff, because then we know, that we've got some other level to look at or inform our vote.
Right, and obviously y'all are just like me, y'all are just seeing this for the first time, and I would just like a legal analysis of what we're changing and what it actually does, so I know what I'm actually making a recommendation on. I don't have a clue. So I can't really I would just ask, I guess, a motion that legal do a review of this for us, and that they would then
Council.
council
Council
staff, and come back within, Madam Chair, I'll let you.
Yeah.
Well,
I think-
Next committee.
and I'm not so sure. There's obviously, to say that we're going to come back later. We're gonna do these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, and then we're gonna come back later and clean it up.
Then
Well,
why are we
that's
doing
the
it now?
point of
Right.
doing this, is to
Right.
clean it up. And so I don't wanna insult the public's intelligence that they can't read, but some of this needs to be in here. Like, we don't need to say that you're making $15,000 a year. That's ridiculous. And although it's not on what they'll see, it still is not clean. And I don't like that we're deleting a responsibility, but then not reassigning it somewhere, especially if an MOU is possibly not, that's not clean either. And maybe the answer is because we don't 100% know. I personally like the idea of having an entire separate department, waste services, or whatever you want to name it, but Metro Water doesn't make sense. And these things are related, which is why I'm bringing it. You can't talk about NDOT and not talk about Metro Water Services, because it's at the same time. So I don't know that we're ready. I think we need to get ready. I don't know why we're in this sort of half-baked situation right now. It's frustrating, and I'm not fussing, because I know that 8 weeks? You dropped into it. But it is a little bit frustrating from our perspective, to know that we need to do something along these lines. This department needs to be officially created. We need to define the responsibilities. I don't like the language of limit NDOT's responsibility, maybe define NDOT's responsibility. There's little things like that, but we need to do something. This falls short. So I guess the way to proceed is to make a motion that, we get a legal analysis, and maybe have NDOT and the administration and whoever else sort of go back to the drawing board and come up with the complete list of, what would it take to clean it up, and then we can go from there.
I think,
But
Go ahead.
I was halfway through a motion when.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When everything got I thought that's what I was doing. Anyway, so.
I apologize.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to get the legal analysis, and we needed I'd say at least 2 days before the meeting, so we can actually read through what y'all's legal analysis. Is that too soon for y'all? It's only a week, so that gives y'all 5 days.
I'll be
Bonus week,
frank, I would like to have it prior to our proposed, at this time, March 29th filing. Like, I
And
mean,
that's-
I would like you all to turn it around. I mean, I don't know, Ms. Darby, have you seen this before?
No, we actually got it in our office yesterday and posted it on the SharePoint yesterday and then but emailed it out to y'all today. So
Okay, so why did you not send that to me yesterday?
I don't recall what time I got it in, but I got it in yesterday and then
Okay.
posted it on the SharePoint.
Okay, yeah, I think if we're gonna hold to our draft timeline, which, you know, is at the committee's discretion, we can, but again, I don't think we should be pushing our timeline because we're trying to wedge this in. But I would like to get some analysis that incorporates, Director Darby, J.O.N. Cooper, our former director's analysis relative to the MOU, and, you know, so specific to this document, but also like contextualized in the previous debates and considerations that we've had over the last year, you know, informed by the council's previous debate and discussion. Councilman O'Connell, you're
Madam Chair, I
recognized.
just want to make sure I understood what Director Alarcon said. Am I correct that there is a full markup version that was more expansive?
Yes, sir, there was one.
Right.
I would
I
personally
like
like
to
to
see
see
that.
that.
Me too.
Because we, even if the administration doesn't prefer to offer that to voters, council might.
I
And-
also, colleagues specifically said at our last meeting, and I appreciate Mr. Sharp from the Health Department as far as the various iterations of this draft and getting that before this committee, the chair, the vice chair, for our input and consideration. I specifically said at the last meeting that it would be helpful to this process if I were to be, you know, shown an early draft or understand the workings. There has been ample time to engage this committee, myself, or Vice Chair Mendez. So yes, a markup, a working document, a side-by-side would have been helpful. So Director Darby, to what extent those are available, or the administration or the department wants to share them, like all that informs how we get to this, right? Which is still, in my view, kind of half-baked, but I understand that there's other stuff that's come along the way to inform it. That helps us understand this. So I guess,
We can ask for it.
okay, well,
I think, I would say as a friendly amendment, I hope to Mr. Roten's motion, I would request the extended.
right, I would appreciate seeing the working documents, the work product. I mean, that's, you know, and to have that inform the analysis. And today is the 22nd, so what's Thursday?
24th.
Okay. Can we get that by close of business on the 24th?
We can try. I mean, so while this was a 5 Tuesday month, the bonus week is run out.
Yeah.
So their deadlines are coming due this, you know, we're out of the bonus time tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's why it would have been good to get this from the administration within that time frame subsequent to the last committee. Yes, Chair O'Connell.
And I don't know, I mean, we can certainly vote on this. I'm just looking down and thinking through Councilmember Mendez and also time today, just within the boundaries of what we got. I would be content to personally recommend that the Fair Board, both of those items, the line item veto, the Metro Water item, and I don't know how hard Mr. Rosenberg wants to push for the cannabis possession. I like the principle. I'm not sure the charter is where I would go on these, and so that gets us down to potentially 5, maybe 6 if GSD comes back.
No, because the health department is 6 different amendments.
Oh.
But staff has, staff has proposed a consolidated amendment.
Yeah, I was reading it as one, so I hope I'm right.
Why don't we let him make his motion?
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Third time's a charm.
Ooh, yeah.
You can do it.
I thought I had it out there. So my motion was originally with 5 days. She wants it in 2. You wanna do it in 3?
Sure.
Okay. So I'll make a motion.
By Friday.
By Friday,
Friday.
that y'all get us an analysis
Right, yeah.
of what we have before us, because I don't know that y'all will have the full amount, so, for our review for the next meeting, so.
And the full,
Second.
and the full thing.
Well, that,
Is that part of the deal?
well, I want them to at least review what we have. I don't know if they'll get the full thing by Friday in time to actually do a full review, so I
It's
can
already
go-
there, it ought to just be emailed, right?
Yeah, I'm just going by what I got in front of me, so.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Third. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay. That is all voting in the affirmative. Okay, Mr. Sharp, you've been very patient as it relates to the health department. Let's take this up now,
And
colleagues.
well, before we even get started on this, I know I wasn't here last time, and Tom, come on. Tom might have brought this up last time. 2 years ago, when the pandemic hit, I was the chair of charter committee. Tom had come to me and said, we need to do a charter amendment. And then the pandemic hit, and I just wanted everybody on the committee to know that they had come with a charter amendment 2 years ago, and the pandemic hit, and it put everything out of whack. So I was just making the committee aware that they have been preparing for this for several years, so.
And I don't know who prepared this document that got it down to 3 pages. Did you do that?
Thank you.
Thank you, both. Thank you very much. Well, Mr. Mendez, I hope that addresses your concern you expressed earlier. Madam Chairman, I'm Tom Sharp from the Health Department. This is identical to what we looked at substantively
At last meeting.
last meeting,
Okay.
with one exception. And I mentioned then that the board was scheduled to meet on the 10th of March, which is a few days thence from that meeting, and they were going to consider whether to drop the requested number of board members from 9 to 7. They did that. They didn't meet on the 10th, though. They moved it because they couldn't get a quorum until the 16th. So this action took place last Wednesday.
Thank you.
But that's the only difference in this and what you've seen before. Do you want me to run through quickly what it does, or how would you like to proceed?
Pardon?
I'm personally okay. I've
Me
seen
too.
it.
Yeah, I think we've all, again, had the opportunity to review this, so I think we're aware of what's in there. The outstanding question, just for the public's awareness, and you've articulated, was 7 or 9. And then I think it was kind of an open question. Some of the smaller housekeeping matters, did that get it to a length that was kind of too lengthy?
Yes,
Given-
ma'am. We
yeah.
took a couple of those out. There were a couple of minor-ish tweaks that brought in whole new sections of the charter, and the board dropped those, so we
Okay.
could get those out. We condensed 3 of them, so one of the changes is that there may be in future a difference between the Director of Health and the Chief Medical Officer. If this passes, there could be. The charter now references those 2 things interchangeably. They talk about the Director of Health and the Chief Medical Director as this same person, because they always have been. They were required to be the same person.
Okay.
So that necessitated, back, you'll see section 7, where 3 different sections of the code are amended for the exact same reason, which is to change the nomenclature from Chief Medical Director to Director of Health, because that will now be his or her responsibility, in those particular sections. And there's one section where they're both left in, where someone can, this is something you hadn't seen before, where that would be in section, let's see, it's in the duties of the board. That's in section 5. The duty number 4 of the board in that section is to hear appeals of a decision currently by the Chief Medical Director. In that case, we couldn't replace it just with Director of Health, because it could be an appeal of a decision by either. So they are now both named in that section.
Okay, and so, Mr. Sharp, because we have a consolidated document from staff, and we have, as you presented it, separate,
That is my more verbose version, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
can you then, for what you just shared,
You also have a track changes version.
appreciate that, that has been helpful. I know Vice Chair Mendez has had the opportunity to review that, colleagues, and then that has already been attached previously to your considerations. So, Councilman Mendez, you having kind of reviewed this top to bottom, as have I, do you have any particular questions or comments relative to those recent changes?
I would like to ask Ms. Darby, there was in the version that came to me initially, my red line showed like a half a phrase got dropped. Did that get addressed?
I believe that got addressed, yes.
I forgot, I put that's back.
Substance-wise, I have no questions. On this one, ultimately, I'm wondering whether we can find out from the election commission, like, how many screens is it gonna take for the charter one and the NDOT one and this one? These are the three longer ones. Like, I don't know whether this is, you know, like an 8.5, 11 by 11 page is one screen or three screens. And I do think where I personally, like, to me, the charter amending is, you know, issue one, and then NDOT's kind of important to me, and this one's kind of important to me. And so it does matter to me ultimately in how many I would like personally to see on the ballot, how many screens it would take up. And I wonder whether they would be able to give us any info on that before we, as a committee, meet again. But substantively, for now, I'm all in favor of us continuing to pursue it. But I before making a final decision, like, we're gonna have to decide the order
Right.
that we want them, and we should have some idea whether we're talking about 5 screens or 25 screens worth of scrolling.
And Mr. Sharp, could I say, again, just to kind of condense and distill, you know, your elevator speech, right, or the public, like, if you could describe what this amendment is doing.
It really only does two things.
Okay.
It changes the makeup of the board slightly by adding a 7th member from a list of potential
So currently 6,
professions.
going
Currently
to be
6.
7.
Correct, and it changes the qualifications for some of the standardized members a little bit. It can be either an MD or a DO. It's always been an MD previously. That was brought up by the MD on the board, by the way.
You're off the elevator.
And it says that the director does not have to be an MD.
Okay.
When we put this on the ballot, because it says for the ballot, and I get this, nobody's gonna read that. I'm just wondering if we can put this in bullet points.
Which part?
What actually goes on the ballot. You know, you have the longer version.
I think all of these things
Yeah.
are.
You can't put it on
I
the,
was gonna say,
it
that
has
was
to be
one of
in-
the questions that we had about the NDOT,
Yeah.
is that it's in bullet points, and we don't know that that's a capability.
I think it has
Or
to be,
can
I think
it-
it has to be narrative. The for the ballot section, it has to be narrative.
okay, so
When we also are gonna have to do a fair amount as committee, like, we, you know, the amendment differentiates between, like,
Well,
no,
then
yeah,
can-
yeah.
We might have been about to say the same thing, I'm
Vice Chair
sorry.
Mendez.
Both are on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget which order it's in, but the full text and the summary are both on the ballot.
but can the summary, if the full text is there and that's what's required, can the summary be in bullet point form?
Don't believe so, but we can ask when we call to ask
Yeah,
about the
about the
pages.
screens.
We could
Yeah.
probably shorten that up some.
I just
The
think, you know,
narrative section.
I want people to read it as much as they want.
We could probably shorten the narrative section up a little bit. Just formatting wise, we could make that a paragraph. It would shorten it up some instead of those 6 or 7,
Tom,
8 bullet points. Yes,
can
ma'am.
I ask too, I mean, I understand in, you know, differentiating or separating these roles, Director of Health, Chief Medical Officer, can you share with us, per the board and your leadership, why is this imperative at this moment? Why does this need to be on
This
the
entire
ballot?
conversation started way back when the question arose from the board, can we have a non-MD as a director? What would it take to do that? I told them you'd have to change the charter because that's where it is. It is not an uncommon practice in health departments of our size. When they first started looking at it, Metro HR surveyed probably 30 or 40 different departments, and it was about 50-50. It is to a large extent an administrative function, but there are portions of things that are done in the health department, as we all saw during COVID, where you have to have a chief medical officer. And so there will be certain decisions that are conveyed to that individual if your director is not an MD.
And we have a precedent here from when we were a smaller government, say like Director Alarcon is Director of Public Works, NDOT, et cetera, used to, per charter, have to be a engineer. right? And then we separated the role of chief engineer, which I guess would be some chief medical officer, into somebody who has like an administrative, obviously knowledgeable about the work of the department, et cetera, but is more of a administrator. So we do have a
If the board
precedent in the
chose to go that
charter
way, they could, yes,
of
ma'am.
making these type changes. Okay.
And that was the conversation that started this, and we thought at the time, let's look at the whole bit, because this is obviously a complicated process. Let's look at anything else we want to change. And the board makeup is really the only other thing that they wanted to look at seriously, and that's what we did. Because these, if you notice this list of professions, there are a lot of these things that we do a lot of that have never been represented on the board. We've run the animal control operation. We've never had a veterinarian because it was prevented by the charter.
Right, and then can I just ask then too, as to your debate, I think Vice Chair Mendez and I said, we're not, as a committee, going to say it should be 7 members, it should be 9. Like, you all know the work and the representation that you need. But, I do think sometimes the public might be surprised everything that is under Metro Health's umbrella, right? And so you have Metro Animal Care and Control, right? And so, the fact that, okay, you're plus 1 member and they could be from this really long list of folks, did you ever consider just saying, okay, well, it's plus, 2 or 3 and we must have a veterinarian, or we must have it seems odd to increase only by 1, all due respect, and then have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different things that one more person could be. Can you tell me how you arrived at approaching it that
It's
way?
7. As opposed to saying you had to have a veterinarian, or you had to have a lawyer, or you had to have a professional engineer, or
Correct.
all that, those kind of things, any of those would be relevant
Okay.
professions. The standard, the ones that are required in the charter now right now it requires 3 MDs.
Okay.
We reduced that to requiring 1 MD. And so we included doctors in the list that you could choose from. You could have more than 1. One of whom has to be a psychiatrist. We've moved that down to a health professional, so it could be a psychologist or other health professional. Doesn't have to be a psychiatrist.
Okay.
And a nurse. And then the 2 community members, without respect to occupation, are already in there. We've just changed the qualifications for those standardized members a little bit. You'll always have those folks, and a nurse, of course.
And so the urgency of this, aside from, this is something y'all been thinking about doing for a long time, and, former Chair Roden spoke to, that is that, but again, for its primacy or priority in this moment, aside from, we've been working on this a long time and we want it to be on the ballot, is what?
The director.
Okay.
If we had to choose, the 2 major changes, if we had to choose between one, we would take the director.
Colleagues, any questions for
Rather
Mr.
not,
Sharp?
but I will have to.
Any other questions for Mr. Sharp?
No, I'd move to advance this on for consideration.
Second.
Any other questions for Mr. Sharp? Okay, all right.
I move approval.
Okay, so, I think we already did that, we already had a second, we already voted, thank you. Don't confuse things, Councilman O'Connell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 5 committee members voting in the affirmative. Okay.
4 and a maybe over there.
Okay,
MD personnel, probably.
yes.
Just make the motion.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward, so I will go ahead and make the motion to
Second.
advance for consideration.
Yep. And I will, just for the public and for colleagues, if anybody's watching, we had the draft of this amendment at last committee for our consideration, so we have already looked at and reviewed this and had the opportunity to ask questions if needed. So with a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's 5 in favor. Okay, so that is among our top priorities per last discussion. Councilman O'Connell also kindly had this drafted previously and before us, and has asked at last committee that it remain in consideration. So in fairness, let's take that up now as well, since we have the draft before us. Councilman O'Connell, you're recognized.
Sure, thank you. this is something I had actually considered last term for many of the same reasons. And I think the reason I'm considering strongly bringing it back this term and would like the committee to consider it is that we are at a little bit of a moment of transition for NES where we know the director has announced an intent to retire. There's a search underway. To me, this would be an appropriate time to look at the institutional nature of the department. I continue to have issues, and we touched on this a little bit last time, where people are still sending me, as recently as between these two meetings, new electric utility infrastructure that impedes public right-of-way. And I guess what I'd like to say is my hope, and maybe this is optimistic, would be that we both meet what I think Councilmember Mendez expressed last time as a couple of key factors here, which is we always want to have a reliable utility from the standpoint of keeping the lights on. We also always want to have a fiscally responsible utility from the standpoint of the success we've had from the standpoint of bond ratings, et cetera. But we might also like to have the public interest and be able to have honest conversations about overall infrastructure delivery, and that's the whole spectrum of things like utility burial, utility placement, solar provision, those kinds of things, which so far across now 3 mayoral administrations and 2 classes of council, it doesn't always feel like it feels like the conversation about what we're doing versus those two things may actually not be moving to the same place. And I think, to me, this amendment gives us just a little more capacity to try to find alignment. I grant the risks that Councilmember Mendez alluded to, but I still think this is worth consideration of the full body.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Councilman O'Connell or for staff relative to this proposal? Councilman Mendez, you're recognized.
It's not really a question. I mean, Councilman O'Connell and I have had this debate a few different times in a few different contexts, and I just ultimately can't be in favor of this. If everybody else in the committee votes to have it, the council think about it like I get it, like I won't have any angst over that. NES cannot use power revenue to bury power lines to the extent that the cost is higher than having them above ground. That would violate federal law for them to do that. And if you want to see a municipality that let the council have control over a power company, like go over to Memphis and
Yeah, that bothers me too.
you find out what happened, at least in one example. And so I think this is a place where the charter, in setting up the autonomy, heavier autonomy than most departments, got it right. But I understand there's more than one view on this. So
And I think
I'll leave it at that.
I think, something that is so obviously like a cost differential of, we get, your constituent, why can't they bury the power lines? That space. But I do feel like we continue to struggle with, and I kind of go back and forth of, is that kind of operational, procedural, kind of MOU, kind of effectiveness, right, of our Public Works, now NDOT department, and working with NES, because, we continue to have ADA compliance issues, that's contravening federal law. We have NES poles in places where we are not providing appropriate walkable infrastructure, and we are not kind of maximizing or optimizing transitional moments when we have infrastructure consolidation or transition. We're not aligning that with infrastructure transition to the maximum benefit of ratepayers, of citizens, of whatever. So I know former Public Works Chair O'Connell and myself in that role, there's always kind of been this sort of lingering through various leadership at NDOT, like, how are we doing this? What conversations are happening? I don't feel that I've heard back from this administration, despite asking and despite previous directors and what's the MOU. Like, I don't think we've had much clarity as a council body. What are the problems? What are the points of contention? Where can we improve from a process standpoint? So I will say I am supportive of this, but I do wonder, Councilman O'Connell, if we might, through some intention in Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, it's not that it's a working group or a study effort, but if we might articulate this perhaps through our resolution process, basically in just asking some questions that could then inform and support this approach later. And I wonder if that might be supportive of what you're doing and keeps that going, or rather what you're trying to achieve. But it might make it potentially stronger at that point, because we understand kind of the background factors, which, you know, you perhaps understand better than other members of council through your engagement in that space. But
I mean, for instance, I know there have been times where, notwithstanding what Councilmember Mendez is talking about, it was not a conversation, hey, let's go do some cost analysis here, let's let Metro make a decision, or let's do this in partnership. It was very much, here are some concerns that are very relevant from a community perspective, and it's like, well, okay, we don't really care about those concerns. Here's the infrastructure we're going to do,
right,
and here's what it's going to be. And I feel like, I think there's some totally reasonable space between we don't want to be Memphis versus defending the status quo, which I think is actually really hard to defend in certain spaces, right? It's like, there are things about the status quo that we absolutely want to defend, and those are those key perspectives of reliability and fiscal responsibility. There are some things I would not want to defend about the status quo, and this is an effort to try to improve upon those.
Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. I understand what you're saying, and I, to a certain extent, agree with it. I'm probably more leaning towards Councilman Mendez's point. It makes me incredibly nervous, this last part about shall be subject to directives of the Metropolitan Council. Be careful what we wish for at that point. That just makes me really, really nervous. And I'm wondering if this is the start of a really healthy conversation between Metro and between NES, and on how we can improve. Because there are, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I just don't know that the best way to go about it is a charter amendment to do what this is doing, which is in so many ways kind of drastic.
And
so I'm not going to be in support, but I understand we've got some work to do. I just think maybe there's different ways to do it.
I think, if I may, this is somewhat in a similar space, just kind of operationally and from a performance perspective and procedurally, operationally with kind of DOT and Public Works, because I think there are many of us on council who, you know, came into office with certain kind of concerns identified in the infrastructure space, and then all the volatility that we've had in leadership in that department. So Councilman O'Connell and I have been hearing for a long time, oh, we're talking NES, we're figuring it out, we're figuring out the sidewalk thing. Director Sturdivant told us that. Interim Director Whitelaw told us that. And again, Director Abercon has just arrived, right? So we're kind of in an awkward moment where, you know, all this stuff has been backlogged, and I feel Councilman O'Connell's concern, because sometimes, like, it just doesn't get addressed until you just make it, you know.
That's my perspective. Is I've been having that conversation for 6 years.
Yeah.
And every time the conversation ends, the Metro side loses, the NES side wins, and there's no more conversation to be had.
I get that. I just think, first of all, the past 2 years, yikes, right? I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus under these particular circumstances, you know, NDOT, Public Works, whatever, we've had, you know, lots of turnover there. I'm hoping that Director Alarcon is gonna show some stability there. If the NES board president or whatever is leaving, so we've got some turnover there coming. So let's give them an opportunity, and maybe this is something that next term, well, if it needs to be a charter amendment next term, but to hopefully have this conversation. But I understand what you're saying, 6 years. I just feel like the last 2 years has been,
3,
2, 3, whatever, has been
Vice Chairman.
complicated.
So this context is a little dated because I was on the board at NES from 2012 to when I got elected in 2015. But even during that era, the mayor's office, and surely Carl Dean would have had support from the Metro Council, demanded that the power lines along the river go underground when Ascend was being built. They wanted to put high voltage power lines in limestone next to a navigable waterway. And NES's answer at the time was, we can engineer anything you would like. Under federal law, we can't use ratepayer money for that. Are you interested in pursuing it? And the mayor's office concluded, well, not really. And so the power lines are above ground. And that was the era where the convention center was being built, and NES was asked to put power lines underground within a multiple square block radius, again, due to federal law, paid for by the city. And then the city ran out of money because they lost a lawsuit for eminent domain, and there ended up being horse trading where NES has its training facility up in Madison in exchange for the bill that the city couldn't pay to put power lines underground. And so even during that era, speaking as board chair of the audit committee, board member for several years, the answer to can you do X, if it's a betterment under federal law beyond the minimum of stringing power lines, like the answer even during that era was, sure, let me work up the price tag for you. And usually the development like gets going, and like with the underground power lines around the convention center, it was, you know, money didn't change. Like, just do it. We promise to pay you. And, you know, a real estate swap ended up settling that out. And so I just, the narrative of NES always wins and the city always loses is just not what my perspective is.
I'm speaking exclusively from my engagements with NES. I'm not speaking to any of that, right?
Yeah.
I understand the administrative, but I'm speaking about neighborhood level infrastructure where we weren't even allowed the opportunity to look at costs, but we even looked at potential designs in partnership with Public Works, and NES trumped everything, right? So
Yeah, I hear you. I understand. It's a combination. I mean, they typically, like, they partner with the mayor's office, the administration, and as you guys articulated, in 6.5 years that 4 of us have been in office, there's been 4 or 5 different regimes, like 3 actual regimes for the mayor's office and 4 or 5 Public Works /NDOT/MOI.
No, I mean, I would have loved the opportunity to look at what should we put in a capital spending plan, but for instance, right, like,
Right.
I took office and we were resolving kind of the final infrastructure plan for Capitol View. It seemed like a great opportunity to negotiate some utility burial, but there was a transition of administrations and the conversation was kind of over before it began. We've had just a variety of these, and I think it's a tough question, right? Because to me, right, the kind of ordinance that might be where this conversation is exactly focused would be on, okay, what if we wanted to say, look, going forward, we're going to treat sidewalks like roadways, and you wouldn't put a utility pole in the middle of a roadway, so why are you going to put one in the middle of a sidewalk? That has a cost, but maybe we should learn what that cost is. Okay?
Well, and remember, Mayor Berry tried really hard to improve sidewalks, and they got bogged down in, they would be able to buy right-of-way from 7 out of 10 neighbors, and they couldn't buy right-of-way from the other 3. And so the whole thing sort of falls apart because you need right-of-way from all the neighbors. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of angles to it.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Is there a motion?
I'll move that we include it and see how we do in committee here.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'll go with abstain.
I'll abstain as well. It's such a cop-out, but I'll abstain.
And I'm,
I mean, you guys know, I mean, if it gets to the floor, you guys know I'll be a no vote.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't want to be a jerk about it.
Yeah.
and similarly, I'm not an absolutist about this. If we can, if this prompts, sorry, I'm throwing weapons at you.
Pens,
I
flying.
will, I'm happy to entertain a productive conversation, and this seems like the right time, again, because there's opportunity.
I wish Director Alarcon was still in here, because I think she may have some thought processes behind that communication and it sort of MOU-ish type stuff with them, you know?
I'm gonna have to go too. I will say, to my point earlier, these other 5, I don't need. I'd be happy to entertain GSD liquor sales contingent upon state law, but I don't need the other 5.
I agree.
If we could real quick, well, we voted on that the other night, so.
Yeah.
On the GSD, since, are you in the GSD? But you're in the
No, I'm
I've got
USD.
GSD, yeah.
So,
I represent GST.
I know you do. I was just curious, so you said it's state law, so this is just something that came up, I did not know this. As far as, I mean, I've always known the GSD is dry as far as liquor stores, but it's in state law that it can't be that way as far as
Yes.
Metro, and that's what I did not know.
It's as far as any county.
Okay.
And you can, there's a local option law that allowed, I think it was enacted in 39 or something, local option law so that counties can have an election to be able to sell alcohol in their county, but only in the municipal districts within the county. And so for Metro, the USD is considered the municipality within the county for the sale
So
of.
that state law would have to be changed.
That's correct, and that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Councilmember Rosenberg was indicating that may happen this session, we'll see.
Yeah,
So we
but-
can keep it alive. If they adjourn without addressing it, then there's no need for us to include it. If
I thought
they
he was
do.
talking about the cannabis when he said that.
No, he was talking about
No.
GSD.
Oh, okay.
GSD.
To that end, though, Madam Chair, I forgot. Councilmember Rosenberg left. I don't know what his intention was. This was obviously under remaining council proposals. Did he express to you he was still interested in running that one?
You know, I think what, Councilman Rosenberg received this prior to committee. I think what he was articulating at the start of the meeting was that we had this as removed from consideration
Yep.
relative to say, so I think what he was suggesting is that it should not be removed from consideration, but we really didn't get to, does he want it to
I see.
remain? I don't think he would have mentioned, you know, like 2 or 3 more weeks or, you know, I think what's challenging about that one is, and this I think is the last thing we should sort of touch on, colleagues, before we conclude, is, you know, our timeline, if we are going to shift our filing to 4/12, then, you know, keeping that kind of under discussion, or, you know, any of the other ones that we did not cover today remains viable. You know, we're down to 5 colleagues here, and if we maintain with our March 29th timeline, then we're, you know, really looking at, I mean, I know we had some debate around the Fair Board size at last committee discussion. That did not get into the priority group. So, you know, this section B is a little bit of a limbo section, to be frank, right? We do not have a proposal. I mean, Councilman O'Connell, we took up your NES proposal because it's literally drafted, so
Yeah.
thank you. But mayor's line item veto, cannabis possession enforcement, rename Metro Water, is that?
I don't think we're ready for that.
Right, and I
As a
don't think
city.
rename Metro Water can happen relative to,
Do we have a
The
draft
way
of the
that-
cannabis possession?
No.
no.
Okay.
So, and can you speak then to, Okay, so there's no draft for line item veto or whomever.
No.
Okay, no draft for cannabis enforcement. Rename Metro Water.
So I think we were kind of thinking that if it was something, depending on how the NDOT proposal
Correct.
was, it might be something that could be put in, but just based on reading the draft that was received, it doesn't seem like there's a place to easily rename
I
water in
concur with that. I don't think that necessarily, colleagues, would you concur, kind of needs a vote. I think it just sort of comes under that NDOT ambiguity and how that's gonna hash out. I would propose that, or make a motion that line item veto, cannabis enforcement, not having a draft, remains on our document in the folder for future, committee consideration, but as far as a process, our timeline now, that we put those aside, that we retain GSD liquor sales for consideration pending state if we do move our timeline to 4/12. Is that too complex an amendment? Do we need to parse that, or rather a motion?
Let's just get rid of the 3 first.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna hold GSD liquor sales back. The motion at present is to remove from kind of priority consideration at this juncture, mayor's line item, cannabis possession enforcement, and Fair Board.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Fair Board or Metro Water or both?
Both, really.
I would remove all 4 personally.
Okay.
Okay, Metro Water,
If the
right, I
administration.
kind of think that almost is not really a standalone, nor would it, I think it just, I see it informing the NDOT amendment potentially, if we get to a place where we're actually articulating where we want waste to be.
Yeah.
I was supposed to say, I don't think we're ready for that. I don't know that we
Right.
know 100% where trash is gonna go.
So I think, we can convey that to the proposer, so that he knows that conceptually, that's kind of still being thought about, but it's not going to be advanced as an individual proposal. What was the last question? I'm sorry, particular to Fair Board? Ms. Zeitlin, you wanted a clarification on the motion, or?
3 or 4.
She was just making sure that that's what we wanted to defer to another discussion, not necessarily advance it for consideration this time. And I think that's, we're
So you're asking just the
confirming
Fair
that.
Board in both iterations
Yes.
here?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll second
1,
that.
2, 3, 4, 5. Basically, everything
Yep.
in section B except the
NES,
power
right.
authority.
And so do we need to vote on that? So
I think we have a first and a second, so it's just,
Yeah, so let's
it's
just
just
vote.
discussion on,
No,
okay.
it's something else.
Aye.
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 Okay, that's 5 affirmative.
And I just want to have a discussion because I think it'd be smarter since we have some things kind of like hanging chads out there with this NDOT thing. We've got some questions. I would prefer to defer it to the April 12th, and I understand that people are like, well, let's get on with it. But at the same time, I would rather not put something in front of the council that's incomplete, or that we have to amend possibly or whatever. I would rather come to them with a complete starting point of this is what we have discussed. We're the committee itself, anyway, is completely informed on what this is. Here, let's talk about all of this instead of, well, we didn't have this, and so maybe we'll talk about it later. I just would rather come prepared. Late, but prepared.
So is then,
Okay.
are you making
A motion to file to move our filing deadline to the 12th, April 12th.
I'll second to get to discussion.
Okay,
So, I hear that, and I think I may agree. However, having sat through,
Is that hard?
no, it's the experience of last term.
yeah.
When we talked for a good solid couple hours, like, we talked in the chamber as long as we have talked today about stuff with a whole bunch of folks who are naturally busy with their own committees and communities and life, that aren't gonna pay attention the first time up because the scuttlebutt's gonna be, it's getting deferred. And then all of a sudden, like, oh my God, I can't believe it says this. And it's such a surprise, we're moving so fast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
It's ugly.
Yeah.
and I guess that's gonna, I mean,
It'll
I think.
happen either way, though.
I mean, that's what I was gonna
Right.
say next.
I mean,
Well,
truthfully.
I
Yeah.
think,
And then the other thing is, and then we don't engage the Charter Revision Commission till after April 19th also.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm on board with it, but we should scheme ways, not scheme's the wrong word, we should plan
it works
ways.
in England, but here it has negative
Right.
connotations, right? So-
When we get to May 5 and May 17, like, we need to be able to say as a committee, y'all got this information 25 times already. Like, if you want to come to the committee meetings, you could have. And right now, because we've got some metro departments been slow walking us, like we've only been getting information, like, we're complaining about it. And we really gotta come up with ways that we don't hear about this, or at least we can say,
Well,
you could have read it.
yeah, and I think it reduces confusion when we're not adding things later too, to come, this is what we're talking about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, oh, well, but now we're gonna add 5, and they're gonna go, what do you, I just think the cleaner we do it, the better.
All right, so y'all talked me into it, but let me ask a question. If we go with April 12, is this committee meeting again before then?
I think we should.
And so the off week between, I keep saying 12, it's the 19th, right? April 19th.
The council meeting is the
It
12th.
filed, but we file on the 12th.
I was gonna say,
Filing deadline
So
of the
you can meet on the
12th.
4th.
yeah, you can
Can
meet
we
on the
meet on the
4th.
4th in the context of other committee work, because people would
That'd
be
be
here?
okay, I'll do
Yeah,
it.
could you
3
guys do
o'clock is early for me.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if 3 o'clock worked again.
3:30 even would be better.
I think we can do 3:30.
Well, and we're talking about the 4th?
That's a Monday.
April
Which is like the
4th.
Monday of budget and finance
Yeah,
and planning.
I'm representing some doctors that can only meet in the evening, so it's next Monday that yeah, April 4th is good with me.
All
Anytime.
right.
We can do it later on in the evening if we
I'm
need.
good with the will of the committee, so.
Okay, so the motion is to revise our timeline to a proposed filing on the 12th of April, with the next committee meeting on April 4th. And I guess just to conclude the discussion, because that was sort of hanging out there when we made the motion particular to NDOT, I think I still would like to get that information as quickly as possible, but I acknowledge that having a little extra time gets us to some better information. So I would really appreciate staff working to the deadline per the original motion, but also.
You like my motion?
It's a good motion.
You've heard me.
And I want you all to fulfill that motion, but if there is, anything that comes after that, right? Like, I don't want staff to kind of hurry to the deadline, have an incomplete analysis, right? So meet the deadline per the motion, please, but understand that we're afforded a little extra time there to get
Yeah,
additional
to
information.
me, like, we can't do it because it's a public meeting, but I would just assume, like, them tell Metro, oh, it's next week. Like, just
Yeah.
because, like,
Yeah.
I don't want them to internalize, we got 3 weeks. Not you guys, the
No, well-
administration,
The motion that passed this committee was Friday, so.
because that's what they did last time.
Yeah.
They heard, oh, we got to the end of
Time for the
March,
fourth to
and they
March
blew it off
22nd,
till
yeah.
then.
Fair point. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Just on a quick side note, because I'm sorry, Chair, can I have just one question?
Yes.
The budget process, when do we kind of start getting into that? Because I know me and Bob are we going to have meetings like we used to have this year, or is that changing?
You've got an email with the schedule?
Yep, you'll start,
I would just, you expect me to look all that up right this second?
the meetings, I think, start in May,
Yeah.
so this will be done before that.
No, it's okay. I was just curious.
Which is-
I mean,
I guess then,
Yeah.
Are we having department meetings like we used to? I mean, because it kind
Hearings.
of changed.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's
Yeah.
a schedule for departmental hearings. It's preliminary right now. It'll probably, we'll send it out.
To say it's preliminary, I didn't even know anything.
It is preliminary right now, but it, it'll
Somebody
probably
take it
get
all
sent
off
out
the
to
count.
departments at the beginning of next week sometime.
So we should have firm dates.
But those start, I believe, May 18.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
what the
firm.
calendar said, May 18 is
Yeah.
when it starts.
So we kind of eliminated what we eliminated. We have moved our timeline somewhat. And so GSD liquor sales, which we discussed earlier, we had separated from the previous motion because we didn't know yet what we were going to do about the calendar. So now that we have shifted the calendar, does anyone have a motion relative to GSD liquor sales, that we are keeping it in consideration?
I make a motion that we keep it in consideration till at least our April 4th committee meeting and see whether there's been any action at the state by then.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Okay.
Okay, all right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yep. So,
Okay, so moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, Chair.
Thank you.